buy some freezers and to multiply the land races they had and put them away so they can be used in the future. This is a fantastic collection. It's over 400 accessions, but they've had their problems due to Soviet financing and things. They basically have let these things get crossed. If you look 10 years ago to Carl Hillig's research, he took 100 accessions from the Vavilov, and he found that looking at allozymes, other primary, secondary gene products from DNA, proteins, he realized that they're all crossed. They're common parents in all of these at some point. So the collection's screwed up. It doesn't mean that you can't get good things out of it, but it isn't the pure collection that you might hope it would be. And there's no dope in it either. The Soviets were not into dope. There's one accession from Afghanistan, as I remember, and a couple other semi-dope things, but it has a huge bunch of feral, wild kind of accessions for all over the former Soviet terrain, which was most of Eurasia. So in that regard, they were a great collection. And a good starting point to do interesting things, but more for the hemp side, maybe not so much for the drug side.
Have you done any work with cannabis's photoreactivity with UVB? And if so, any kind of an idea for a window on like the nanometers, the exact UVB spectrum, as well as like the concentration of foot candles for a nice window?
Not really. We did an experiment years ago at Hortifarm. We worked with Dave Pate, and Dave Pate wrote his master's thesis about UV light levels in nature and how this might have affected the profiles of accessions from different parts of the world. And it was fascinating stuff. In retrospect, it didn't really hold much water, but what we wanted to do is to see if these phenomena existed. So we took UV lights and we blasted plants with them through the whole growth cycle, under artificial lights, under sodiums in the case of Holland. And we did not find any difference in cannabinoid production. We found huge differences in how the plants survived the treatments, like too much UVB just killed them. Oh, sorry.
What they found actually, what they found actually in a recent study that came out about 6 months ago, based in the Philly place, which is one of the places the U.S. government allows for research in cannabis, in addition to the Israeli and Portugal research facilities. The study came out based on all three and found the same thing, that an increased UVB and a slight UVA production increases the THC production between 18 and 25% over the 6 Jamaican strains they did. They did 25 controlled grows in the place in Philly. And they found that it doesn't increase the CBD production at all. So UVB, and with a small amount of UVA will increase your THC production between 18 and 25% based on the strain that they use. They did 25 control grows there in the Philly place. You can look it up, the place is online. It's about a 40-page paper they have out there. There's another 200-page paper that's actually a synopsis that you can read of all three of them. But the UVB production that you need is there. The biggest problem you have with using UV is that the UVA and the UVB you need are both carcinogenic to your own skin. And so you have to keep them off. And there's also new UV technology developed recently out there. If you guys want to read about UV, you can actually get rid of all of your pest and mold problems within your room by using the right UV spectrum. The problem with those UV lights is that they're double the carcinogen value than you get from outside sun. So you have to have them on a separate timer to come off. There's only 2 companies currently making them. They're about $1,500 a pop. They'll sterilize your entire room in a 10 by 10 area with one light.
There's
new
another
technology out there is insane for you guys. I mean, there's people aren't really doing research out there with the LED UVD production. I have some LED lights I've been researching for a company out there that paid me a bunch of money to do it. And the UVB and the UVA and it increases so much that it actually burns your plants by putting them in the sun when you take them from the outside. As we've all done bigger plants outside, you have to harden them off like going through there. But the UVB and UVA that comes out when it increases your THC, I mean, it brought one of my strains from 22 to 29%. I can show you the analytics.
That's great stuff. That's newer research than I've heard about, and I'll look it up. Yeah, it looks like great stuff. The one thing I have seen from the pest control side is I believe this is in Spain that this was done, but it doesn't really matter. They're rose houses, and roses get really bad powdery mildew. And they roll UV lights on a cart through the aisles of the greenhouse. They get some under glass, you get very little UV, okay? So they get a tiny bit maybe at the top of the plants, but down where the air circulation is low and they get the problems with powdery mildew, they go by with a cart, walk along with UVA, UVB tube lights, and they just blast the light underneath the rose bushes, and it works, knocks it down. Yeah, they basically just walk through these aisles in a big greenhouse, just at walking speed. That's enough light to knock this down. So yeah, it's the same idea of using UV for pest control. I don't really know if. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm an integrated pest management guy. I like biocontrols and I also like poisons. So I just like them used creatively. No, that's true too. The best thing is prevention. It's like human health. I mean, why get sick if you don't have to? So.
Let's do.
More comments?
Can we do one more question
Sure.
over here, and then
You're the one on time.
and then let's move on to the actual 3D mapping project here. So next
Yeah,
question.
exactly.
I had a question about locally acclimated and landrace strains, but you kind of answered some of the stuff with land races. So I was going to ask how altitude and factors such as this affect the production with different strains, and with an emphasis on locally acclimated strains, and how that why people should save those, and what what kind of bearing altitude has on the strain's expressiveness of the traits.
Well, altitude gets back to the UV light issues again. That's what Dave Pate was doing. He's trying to look at UV light incidence versus THC production in. Yeah, exactly. That's the same kind of thing. This has been around in high times for a long time, things like that. But the land races are not so important because of specifically what they can produce now under any circumstances. They're important for our future. They're important to make sure we don't lose these unique combinations that cultures develop for whatever reasons and lose them in the name of getting stoned. I mean, I'm a stoner, cut from stoner cloth, but cut from hemp cloth. But we've gone a little too far, and we've ignored our roots, our land races, our important things that we need to rebuild. I keep saying this over and over. We need to resurrect what's there and go back to it and reconsider it in a different light, and not just the prohibition model of profit. It's not what we support anymore, and that's what's been driving where we're at today. It's all prohibition mentality. We would not be where we are today if it wasn't illegal. And we're at the end of, we're doing the right thing. We're keeping people from going to jail. Okay, they'll break rules, new rules, but they'll get fined. They won't be incarcerated, we should hope. And we're doing good with that, but we still haven't protected the consumer. The new California rules they're putting in, they're doing nothing to protect the consumer. You guys are so far ahead. I mean, you've got a state that's listing heinous compounds, and you've got private groups that are listing more because they're the ones that are really germane to what's going on. And this is great. It's good to see the local thing happening. But after all this is said and done, let's get back to the environment. Let's get back to what we've done to ruin our shared space as growers, as profiteers, as my group, our group, we screwed this up bad. We've gone into greed mode. We've gone into the same mode as the dam company, As a group, we've outsourced, we've crowdsourced, we made great progress, and we've flummoxed a bunch of it. So we need to look at ourselves, we need to look at what we're doing, look at the future, and try to make a good go of it, a good conscious go of it. And that's what I see here right now. All you people wouldn't be here if you didn't give a damn. So, yeah, let's work together. Let's try to make it work. Let's use the new tools, but let's not forget the old things. Let's do it. And now Magley's going to blow your mind.